It's Friday, July 27th. Let's talk PlayStation. Ironically, for this week, we're going to jump right into an Xbox rumor, because admittedly, when we have a situation where we're learning about the next generation of video game hardware, whether it's Microsoft or Sony, we definitely got to talk about it, because it certainly dictates what we will be possibly looking into for 2019, 2020, and just all in general, the future of video game consoles. And what's interesting is that if you didn't see from this past Tuesday's video, we kind of talked a little bit about how there was a recent Kotaku article detailing that most major video game figures are extremely interested in pursuing streaming. So the kind of conversation in that video was more or less that even though a majority of gamers and consumers don't want to stream their video games, the video game industry thinks you do, and so they're going to pursue it anyway, and it'll be interesting to see the sort of conflict there in terms of if consumers are going to buy into it and eventually accept it or adopt it at some point. Well, anyway, the rumor recently from this past week was about Xbox Scarlett, which is the code name for Microsoft's next generation of Xbox hardware. And we know from E3 2018 that Xbox head Phil Spencer openly admitted that they're working on a next generation Xbox hardware, and he openly admitted that it's multiple consoles. So, you know, I think for a lot of us, we might have maybe heard that back during E3 and thought, okay, you know, this may be in the same veins of what we have right now, where we have, you know, mid-cycle updated consoles with PS4, PS4 Pro, Xbox One, Xbox One X, so possibly a range of Xbox devices would imply that one would be $300 and one would be even more powerful for $500, releasing in 2020 or something like that. Well, the new rumor that came out was that actually Microsoft is pursuing a situation where one is a traditional console and one is an extremely affordable box that's only for streaming. And it would be using Microsoft's currently rumored cloud service, which was like called Scarlett Cloud or whatever, all code name. All, you know, they're shortly going to have some official names for this whenever they're ready to show off the hardware and all their services. But it's also presumably being said right now that this will be ready in 2020, or it will release in 2020. So you can expect a full reveal or something like that come 2019, and that's pretty much, I think, where a lot of people are probably standing right now when it comes to when we'll find out what all this stuff looks like is 2019, and then we expect major hardware releases in 2020. Now, I want to definitely talk about this for that jumping off point from Tuesday's video. Again, you can go back and watch that to see the more, because it's like an 11-minute conversation to really dive into that topic, but you know, again, a jumping off point would be that I almost expected this to sort of happen maybe in the generation after PS5 and the next Xbox, a situation where you would have a streaming-only box alongside a traditional console. But no, we are more than likely getting this now. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say this rumor is totally true, because it's a rumor at the end of the day, but let's face it, when we've got closed sources gearing up to these announcements come 2019, and Microsoft's already revealed its multiple consoles, this is more than likely definitely what's going to be happening. They've already gone on record to say it's multiple systems, they're working on a streaming service. This is probably definitely for sure what we're going to be seeing, and it'll be interesting to see this play out. I'm actually fascinated. I'm glad that Microsoft's actually the one doing this, and you know, it will be interesting to see what Sony does as well. I mean, I think it's safe to say right now, for what we're looking at in terms of Sony's rumors, we're probably going to get a very traditional PlayStation 5. It's just a PlayStation 5. It's, you know, however much it is, $400 or $500, but it's a traditional console with discs. And I'm sure Sony has some surprise up their sleeve in terms of, you know, making the system more enticing or more favorable, or making it truly next-gen defining, and whether that's blockchain technology, more PlayStation Now, or you know, a PlayStation VR 2.0. Surely there's going to be some sort of catch to making PS5 truly unique and special, but as it stands, there's no situation right now where Sony will be releasing a budget PlayStation 5 that is purely a streaming box. This is something that Microsoft seems to definitely be pursuing, and they're playing it safe by doing the traditional console and a streaming box. And I want to see the sales numbers. I mean, I know we're 2 years out from these devices being revealed and you know, priced, and launch titles, and what the streaming service will cost us, and you know, how good the latency will be. Because that's the thing too, is that the current rumor suggests that this cheaper Xbox streaming console will be a little bit more expensive than what you'd expect from current streaming devices that are similarly priced, like the Amazon Fire Stick or a Roku box. I mean, those are very inexpensive. This will probably be something along the lines of like an Apple TV, probably like $100 some odd bucks, maybe $150. Still much cheaper than a traditional console, but more expensive than what we're used to in terms of those gateways for video streaming services. But still, you know, $100 to get into highly detailed, beautiful graphic next-gen games would be, that's not bad. But, you know, I mean, I think it's fair to say, and you guys have voiced a ton of comments already, you don't want to stream your games. Most people just are vehemently against it. So they're playing it safe by doing the traditional console, but that's what I want to see. How many of these streaming-only Xboxes are Microsoft going to sell? I mean, they're doing great with, like, you know, Xbox Game Pass, and of course tons of subscribers on Xbox Live, but people are definitely loving Xbox Game Pass. And there's that PlayStation Now rumor where apparently come around September or so, Sony will reveal that you can download PlayStation Now games directly to the console, and we're expecting that to be purely PS4 games, certainly, but I think that would entice a lot of people to finally try PlayStation Now just based off of that feature alone, because they would play the games locally on the hardware. But yes, I want to see how well this will, how well will that little micro console sell. Honestly, I mean, like I said, I've tried PlayStation Now. It worked fine for me. I don't have a huge problem with it. I'm still, you guys see my shelf. I love physical games, so I'm always going to be a physical guy at the end of the day. But I didn't have a problem with PS Now, so I would honestly probably totally get the more affordable, because I don't play my Xbox too often. I usually use it for exclusives. So I think if, you know, come next gen, I would probably at launch get the streaming one, and just see how it goes for me. You know what I mean? But for a lot of people, I mean, they're probably not gonna they're not gonna want that. But that's the rumor. We'll talk about it when there's, you know, more details and things like that coming out. But on the Sony side of things, as it stands right now, all rumors are pointing towards Sony doing a still general traditional PlayStation 5 and nothing else, nothing more. Again, there's probably something more to it to make it, you know, enticing to buy, and I think the big one is a lot of people are looking forward to that it will have backwards compatibility, and that's kind of a safe bet because it's still going to be based on x86. But yeah, we'll talk about it more when we get more rumors. But moving on to our next news story, and it's kind of still semi-next-gen related, and it's actually a sentiment that I shared not too long ago. I forget in what video, but Wedbush Morgan Security Michael Pachter, who's a video game analyst, had recently mentioned how he feels that Death Stranding is possibly going to be a cross-generation title, so it would be available for PS4 and PS5. And he also made the note that in regards to Sony's E3, he said it was odd, but at the same time, it adds up because those are all PS4 games, right? And those are the last of the PS4 games that we will pretty much get. And I know Shuhei Yoshida, Sony's Worldwide Studios, Shuhei Yoshida, has gone on record to already say that there are still unannounced PS4 exclusives. I wouldn't take that too highly in terms of like, oh, more AAA games are out. No, that's what we've got is what we've got right now. Shuhei is more than likely probably referring to budget titles that will be released on PlayStation Network or PlayStation VR titles. They always include those games when they're talking about exclusive PS4 games. And every time people hear exclusive PS4 games, they're thinking of big budget AAA games from one of Sony's major first-party studios. But at the end of the day, you have to really think about this, and you have to look at the long-term reach of what they're doing as a company. You know, Days Gone, Dreams, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man. That's it. Like The Last of Us Part 2, these are the last PS4 exclusives. Once these games are out, we are full force going PlayStation 5 with Sony's major first-party studios. Again, there may be one game hiding somewhere, but even then, I can't imagine it would be that big budget of a game because it's going to be, at that point, we don't even know about it right now, today. 2019 is probably a PS5 announcement. 2020 will be a release date. If we don't know about the game now, we don't hear about it within the next year, and it's still releasing on exclusively PS4 by 2019, 2020, that's just jarring. It doesn't make sense business-wise. The game's like clearly moving forward, and that's the thing too, is that from E3, from Bethesda's show, I mean, Starfield, the next Elder Scrolls, like they pretty much confirmed like those are next-gen games. We've got announcements for them, but those games we are going to be playing those on next-generation hardware. So yeah, and that's what I was saying before. I feel like Death Stranding may very well be a cross-generation title, just based on the fact that we still know nothing about this game. It's still probably going to be at least a year minimum but realistically, probably 2 years until we play this game, and it would just be weird to have this game come out on PS4 and not PS5. It's probably going to release on both, and personally, I'm totally okay with that. I'll play the game on PS5, more than likely. Moving on, if you remember a while ago, we had a news story about Quantic Dream allegations about a terrible work environment, a toxic work environment. An employee had left, and there was the apparent situation. What we found out within that studio and what happened with this victim within the company was that apparently the studio heads, like David Cage, for example, they were sexist, racist, and apparently circulating photos of this team member being photoshopped within the studio. Again, very poor behavior. If that was true and I was part of that, I would think that's pretty insidious and awful. Well, anyway, Quantic Dream has lost their court case with this victim, which is not great. I mean, that's terrible news. And what's funny is that when this whole situation broke out and 3 local papers and publications had published stories about Quantic Dream's bad work conditions, the studio head, David Cage, was actually flabbergasted by this, borderline offended, and actually said that this was straight up slander, and the company even went on further to sue those 3 publications. So they were quite, adamant that that those weren't true. And so now that this is a situation where the victim has won, it doesn't paint a good picture. Doesn't look good for the studio, which is a shame because they just pumped out an extremely fantastic game, one of my favorite games of this year so far. I know a lot of people are picking God of War, but honestly, I think for me, I'm edging out Detroit. I loved it so much. Also, Octopath's great. Okay, either way, this isn't good, right? And there's really nothing more to say about it other than the fact that they can appeal it right now if they want to. Quantic Dream will more than likely appeal this. They also have 2 other ongoing cases, I believe, from former employees. One was dismissed, and another one was dismissed as well, but I believe that employee has also appealed back. So with this court stuff, again, it gets very messy, but next time we'll talk about this, we'll hopefully get some more answers. For our final news story, it's nothing super fascinating, but PGS Entertainment has announced that there is going to be a Sly Cooper TV show, animated TV show. And, we haven't discussed this in a very long time because the last thing we really talked about with Sly Cooper was that there was a movie and there was a trailer made and the voice talent was there and it actually looks kind of cool. And then we, never saw it. But there's apparently an order for 50-some-odd episodes of a Sly Cooper TV show slated for 2019. The first season or so around the first 20-so episodes, are actually going to be an 11-minute runtime. So that's short. That's like Robot Chicken, Aqua Teen Hunger Force style. But there you go. I mean, I always preach this, which is that I think Sony has great properties that can certainly, with the right talent and with the right writing and adaptation, can certainly be put into film and comics and what have you. They can merchandise out and source it out to the right talent and get some good stuff going. Like that Ratchet and Clank movie, which apparently did really well in terms of critical reception, but money-wise, it didn't do all that well. But Ratchet's a great character, Resistance would be a totally dope movie. The Uncharted movie we talk about every now and again when there's stuff going on about that, and definitely Sly Cooper. So hopefully this actually comes to fruition because we're still waiting on that movie, if it will ever happen. But also, apparently the voice talent, the regular voice cast of Sly Cooper has not been confirmed for this TV show. For me personally, I need the voice talent. The second you change out the voice talent, it just destroys the source material for me. It's got to be, because for most people that's what it is. You've had that association, and it's hard to get over that mental hurdle of because it sounds. Then it becomes like a different character to you. That's why I had such a struggle with the Jack voice actors being changed for Lost Frontier in that game. Just all around being a fucking weird game. I don't like it. That's opening up a whole new can of worms. We're not going to get into that. Those are some of the news stories that I want to talk about with you guys from this past week. You can keep up with my shenanigans on Instagram and Twitter at Mystic Ryan. And that's pretty much it. That's all I got for you guys this week. So that concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Benecki. Thank you all so much for talking with me, and I will see you guys next Friday.